All right, we are going to start with, if you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you can go ahead and take a seat. So, good evening. Thank you guys all for coming. I'm Emily Garrick. This event is brought to you by RA Productions with support from our local media here in town, and we appreciate most of them being here tonight to report on this, so thank you guys. To give you just a little bit of a backstory and a why here, my husband Brad and I are both involved in local politics, and our business, RA Productions, does events, light, sound, live streaming, and video production across the state. So this is kind of both of those passions colliding here to create this event, and really just us seeing an opportunity to fulfill a need in our community. So I think we can probably all agree that the future of North Platte is pretty exciting. The energy here really is palpable, and we have a lot of growth and development that's happening. And I often hear people now talking about how they actually want to move to North Platte, and that is not something that I probably could have said years ago when I first moved here. So there really is a lot of hope, there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of excitement and community support, and those are things that I just really like seeing. So what many people don't often stop to consider is that all of those things are not coincidental or accidental. There are a lot of people that are working very hard to make those things happen in our community. And some of those people are the people that are elected into these local positions on our council, on our county commission, on our school board, on our airport authority. And so it's really important that we all know what they stand for. Probably most of us in this room know who's running for president in this election, but do we all confidently say that we know who's running for our local offices? So that's why we're here. It really is critical that as a community we pay attention, that we ask questions, that we get involved, and that we know who our local leaders are. Local leadership is the most effective way to make change in our community. So our goal for events like this is basically just to spark an interest, to get people paying attention, asking questions, to really be engaged in what's happening in our town and in our local politics. So just to kind of give you an overview of how tonight will go, we will bring the candidates from each race up, one race at a time. We will start with Airport Authority tonight, then we will move into our 2 wards of school board that have contested races, and we will end the evening with City Council. The candidates here with us tonight were given a few questions ahead of time, and I have notes because we are not seasoned politicians here. So we've had some questions about that, and I do want to address that. The people that are serving in these roles in our community are not seasoned politicians. They are normal people. They have businesses in our community, they have careers, they have families, and most of them are volunteering a large amount of time to serve into these roles. And so I actually just want to start by thanking all of the candidates for, one, not only being willing to throw their name in the hat to serve our communities, but two, for being willing to come here tonight, to sit up here on this stage, to answer hard questions in front of you and in front of the people that are going to be watching this live stream. So for the questions, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer the first question, which is kind of an introductory statement. From that point on, each question will have 2 minutes allotted for each candidate to answer. We will be holding them to that time limit because I don't think anybody in this room wants to be here at 4 a.m. So when they have 30 seconds remaining, they will be given a warning that they have 30 seconds left. When their time is up, they will be given a warning that their time is up. And if they go 10 seconds over their allotted time, Brad is very excited at the opportunity to be able to mute somebody's mic tonight. Yes. So at this time, we'll go ahead and have the Airport Authority candidates come up and start getting a seat and getting comfortable up here. And I would like to introduce our moderators for this evening. So our first moderator is George Lobby. Most of you know George from his duration at the North Platte Bulletin. He's devoted a lot of his life to educating our community on issues just like these and keeping us all informed. So we appreciate you, George, for being here. Our second moderator is Elizabeth Tegmeyer. Elizabeth has served our community as an educator. She's now a representative and board president of the Nebraska State School Board. So Elizabeth, thank you for taking your time. And we have Commissioner Wooler here, who is serving as our timekeeper. So thank you. We appreciate you guys. So at this time, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to the moderators so we can kick this evening off. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to echo something that Emily said. Thank you for serving. Thanks for running for these positions. So tell us, I want to start, tell us about your background and what qualifies you for this office, and how will your availability and skill set allow you to fulfill the obligations and devote the required time to serve well in this role. And let's start with Daryl, and we'll work this way, and then the next round of questions we'll work back the other direction. Okay?
Thank you, George. It's good to be with all of you this evening. I'd just like to give a special thanks to all those involved for the organization of this event tonight. I can tell from the get-go it's very well planned out, and glad to be part of it. My name's Daryl Smith. I've been in business in North Platte for 42 years. My company is First Nebraska Financial Services, a small boutique financial planning office here in town. I was born and raised in Wallace, so I come to the big city 42 years ago after college. I've been 2 times elected to the Airport Authority Board, and of all the boards I've served on, this is one of my favorites. It's one where I think I can make a real impact on the community. I've been very involved in the community with numerous boards. Probably most recently on the Great Plains Health Board of Directors, was a co-chair and served 2 terms on the hospital board. But I just have always been one that I wanted to be involved in the community. I wanted to give back, and I learned a long time from a gentleman that lived here, a very successful gentleman by the name of Shuey Shoemaker. And Shuey made a statement at a Chamber DevCo annual meeting where he talked about make your town you live in better than you found it. And that comment stuck with me 20 years ago, and I just kind of said, you know, if it's good for Shuey, it's good for me. So that's part of my thinking there. 14 years plus experience. I mentioned 2 times on the board, but I also served a partial board position with the Airport Authority when a gentleman moved out of town. So I've got some experience on the airport board. I'm just excited. Like Emily mentioned, there's so many good things going on in this community, and one of them is the airport. You know, we're ready to break ground on the new terminal. We'll talk about that more later tonight, but some really exciting things happening. I've done a lot of the digging and planning and work that we've got the terminal ready to go, and we've got it out to bid, but I want to be there to see this thing to the end. So again, very excited to be here tonight, and I'll pass it on to Mr. Phelps.
Right. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to everybody tonight. My name is Dan Phelps, lifelong resident of North Platte. Graduated from North Platte St. Pat's in '98. My wife and I made the decision to move back to North Platte in 2005. We came back and started her business, Phelps Family Dentistry here. I worked for MPPD for 15 years. So a little bit of background with me, why it qualifies me for this position. Background in project management and regulatory management for the district. I worked out here at the hydro plant, worked a lot with FERC and the requirements they have with the district there. So regulatory things are not unusual to me. I'm more than capable to help with those types of things. Also coupled with that, my wife and I decided to invest in North Platte, and we have several rental properties in North Platte, and so we're here a lot. So part of the question was your availability to be able to be on this board. One thing, if elected to this board, is, you know, to be an active board member, not just kind of hold a seat, and being out at the airport, being involved and seeing what's going on and being able to be a part of that. So I do have availability. My wife and I made the decision a few years ago for me to leave the corporate world and be more involved in our business and the rentals. So I am around a lot more for that. So kind of like Daryl hit on, you know, making the community better is one reason that I'm running for this board position. We've got a lot of stuff going on at the airport. I've been out there for the last 2 years getting my pilot's license. I just completed that this summer, so very familiar with general aviation. Frequent flyer on SkyWest, so very, very involved with their operations and how they do things. And then here recently, getting up to speed on the airport, visiting a lot with Justin Gosnell and his staff out at the airport. And I can tell you folks that there's a lot going on. Probably one of the least exciting races here is the Airport Authority. Everybody's kind of like, well, yeah, Airport Authority. But I can tell you, after being involved out there, we've got a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things going on out there. And the future is incredibly bright out there. We've got a lot of potential for economic development, continue to expand with the airlines. In general aviation, this is a great place to learn how to fly and have an airplane. So all those things together are why I would really like to be on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Randy Billingsley. I grew up here in North Platte. I graduated from high school here in '79 and worked heavy equipment construction for a while, and I was on the railroad for a while, got hit by the big layoff. Then I spent 15 years on our police department here in North Platte, most of the time which I spent as a plainclothes detective. During that time period, I took a lot of college classes on accounting, had 115 hours towards an accounting degree, and which led to a lot of the caseload that I worked on the police department, being financial crimes and embezzlements. But in late 90s, my wife and I, we started our own business, Garden Glove Landscape and Irrigation, which evolved into Garden Glove Garden Center. And then in '17, we started another business, the Coffee Bin. And with all that, I've had a lot of experiences from the business end, analyzing documents and stuff as an investigator. And I felt that, there was a lot more that I could lend myself with that kind of background to looking at things and analyzing and looking at budgets and trying to make sure that everything was in alignment with what the public would want. So I really wanted to be involved with the Airport Authority from that aspect, but also I obtained my pilot's license in 2013. I have a plane that's been housed in a hangar at the North Platte Airport since then, and I've got over 600 hours, so I'm familiar with aviation, I'm familiar with the FAA, public transportation, and a lot of what goes on at the airport. When Mike Jacobson was appointed as senator, I was appointed to fulfill his term on the North Platte Airport Authority, and I've been there since now. Exciting things going on. These guys have got it right. There's a lot going on in North Platte with the inland port that's coming, the golf courses that are coming, and all the economic growth. We've just got a lot of things happening, and we need to keep up with that. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Your next question is, what do you see as the top 2 issues that the Airport Authority will deal with in the next 6 years? What is your stance on them, and how can you be influential in those decisions? And let's see, since we started with, oh, you want, well, I was going to hit Dan. Our moderators are having a fight. Yeah, we'll go with Dan and then Randy and then back to Daryl.
You bet. So over the next 6 years, you're probably going to see a lot of things regulatory-wise. Obviously, we're building the new terminal. So front and center, we've got to get that completed, come in on budget, and work towards a successful project there. After that, you're probably going to see a lot more regulation type things, maintaining our taxiways. Our Bravo taxiway has been on the forefront for a while. That one's going to have to be addressed eventually, and anything that comes up along the way. Just visiting with Justin out at the airport, the regulations aren't getting any lighter. The amount of documentation that's done out there is absolutely incredible, which is good and bad. It leads us to more funding, but it also, again, it's more regulations on top of it. So the regulations are going to be the big thing. Also, in the next 6 years, we need to be ready for the opportunity for economic growth. If we do land a business that wants to come in and have air access or runway access, we need to be ready for that. So a lot of planning in our master plan, as well as being ready for that financially, very, very important. And so that's probably one of the top ones. And absolutely, as a board member, we'd want to be ready for that.
Okay, first of all, because the new terminal is in the works out there, I think it's most important to see that through, that construction works smoothly and that we obtain that terminal without disruption to service. And there's a lot of things going to be happening out there all at the same time. So that's going to be of paramount importance for economic growth. Then secondly, for the general aviation portion of the airport, we're short on hangars, and we're going to be looking at providing that space, like Dan said, for the air park out there for commercial properties to be able to station their business out there or to have a hangar out there. So I think those are the things we're going to be seeing in the next 6 years.
Okay. It's going to sound like a broken record, but obviously the new terminal is going to create some disruptions. I think that's probably my number one issue that would be there, and that's just going to be a balancing act with our staff, with Justin, everybody out there to just make sure that the inconveniences that are there with the commercial travelers, the inconveniences with general aviation, we just got to make sure we do a really good job with that. Justin and his staff out there are first class, do a great job for us. So I have no concern that we can't handle it, but it's just one that we need to have a focus on. I think another one that we need to keep the eye on the ball is that Nebraska's become a golf mecca, and we're sitting right in the middle of it. And it's amazing the people that will travel from all over the United States and the world to come see golf in this part of the world. And we just need to keep our eye on the ball that with general aviation and pilots that are flying in. I counted 13 private jets on the tarmac 2 weeks ago Friday. And that was 2 weeks after Graybull north of Maxwell opened up. So we're aware of it. Our FBO is aware of it. We want to create a first-class experience when those folks come into town. Another little tidbit on Golf Mecca USA, but we found out when the opener is for Graybull next year, and 40% of the flights have already been booked on United Airlines for those days coming in to make sure that they're at Graybull on the opener next spring. So that's exciting. I think my number two issue that's going to be there, again, ties into number one, but it's the old terminal. We've got some transitioning going on there as well. And to me, the exciting part about that is didn't get to number two.
We can probably get to that before we're finished, Darrell.
Okay.
So Randy, this one's to you then. You can start. It says, so you talk about possibility of economic growth out at the airport itself, but how do you feel that the role of the authority is in the overall economic growth in North Platte? And how do you feel that the community should balance commercial flying and general aviation?
Okay. First of all, I believe that we're way overdue for this new terminal. Most of the regional airports of cities of this size in the surrounding states have already upgraded their terminals far ahead of us. And so it's paramount that we keep up with the time so that we can accommodate the needs in North Platte, both commercially and private. With the inland port, the golf courses, and the other growth in town, we're going to see a lot more executives flying into North Platte. I think it's just paramount that we make decisions, that we stay ahead of the curve and get them accommodations made at the airport for them in order for the economic growth to be successful. So.
Okay, Daryl?
Okay. I would say number one for economic development, that was probably my number one reason 14 years ago to get involved with the airport. I was highly involved with the Chamber and the DevCo when we did the merger of that, served 2 terms with DevCo and Chamber. But economic development's just one of those key pieces of it. And commercial air service, general aviation, they go hand in hand. They'll grow together, they'll work together, but the commercial air service that we have, the jet service, has been the game changer for us, getting United Express in here. Our employments shot through the roof at plus 10,000, and I think pre-COVID we hit almost 19,000 employments. The key number in that is 10,000. When we get to 10,000, we get $1 million from the FAA for airport expansion, airport improvements, which is key. You know, as local taxpayers, you know, we couldn't foot the bill for many of those projects, but when you have air service, a community our size, that's very, very important to have. We've mentioned it before, but so many things going on in our community. We've got new eyeballs coming to North Platte all the time. We need to have that piece of it. General aviation's very important. We got to keep that, retain and attract existing pilots, existing owners. We need to work together to make all that work, and Trigo Dugan Aviation is the last piece of that puzzle. We've got a great relationship with a 50-year plus family-owned business that does a fantastic job with all parts of general aviation, but also very importantly on the commercial side with the maintenance side. When issues happen, they've got a mechanic that could come in there and make sure that United's on their way to Denver.
Okay, Dan?
You bet. So I would echo what both Daryl and Randy have said. The terminal was long overdue. We absolutely have to have that. And in fact, TSA actually gave us basically a warning that our facilities currently were inadequate for the size of their equipment that they needed. So we had to do something there. Like Daryl said, when people come to town, we want them to have a great impression in North Platte, and that terminal is very important. If you remember the Wendover flight we used to have, hopefully we'll be able to get something like that back someday. Daryl mentioned 10,000 employments. We hit that number last month. So we're growing. We're back on track to pre-COVID type numbers. Once we get in that 17 to 20,000 mark, that's when other airlines will start looking at us, or maybe SkyWest adding a second flight. So very important that we have the facilities there to be ready for that, and as our community grows, we can capture that as well. On the topic of economic development, something that I think is very important long term, especially the next 10 years, will be our involvement with the Inland Park Authority. That is absolutely critical with the expansion of the territory for that encompasses the airport now. We have the ability to attract businesses that could bring in cargo that need to clear customs. That is a possibility now, and so we have to be ready for that as well. Mentioned the general aviation piece of it. Absolutely, there has to be a balance there. We've got a great general aviation community. We want it to be an active community. Randy mentioned that hangars are going to be short. I think we only have 1 or 2 that are available now. So we've got to find a plan for that. With Gothenburg, they're having some trouble with their airport. They're thinking about closing things down. So we're going to get a lot of new tenants from that as well. North Platte's a great place to learn how to fly and to have an airplane. Another thing that I'd love to pursue as a board member is a partnership with the college. The college has a great ground school now. Let's expand that. We'll try to get something with aviation going.
Thank you. So you've all mentioned the new terminal, and we're excited for that to be built. But also the city has recently annexed the airport. And so kind of thinking about those things, what potential opportunities do you think that they present, but also what issues do you foresee? And we'll start with Daryl.
Okay, thank you.
Right, we're back to Daryl, right?
Okay, that's fine.
No?
The city annex that happened a couple years back, Over the years, there's been discussion, should we annex with the county, should we annex with the city? And everything just kind of stayed status quo. But as we've continued to grow out there, we knew the terminal was coming. The annex to the city, I think, was one of the best things that happened for us. We're stepping up our game out there at the airport. We're provided with city services. We've got a fantastic police department. We've got a great fire department, city and water and sewer, very important pieces of the puzzle out there for us. So, as we grow this airport and we, God forbid, have an incident where we'd have issues with fire or aircraft crash, those types of things, we've got protection there with the city fire department. We'll work collectively together. Security issues have become more and more of a bit of an issue, and thankfully we've got police department that can help us with some of those security issues at the airport. So I would just say, number one, that's a key piece of it, that it was a good thing in my mind. Going back to the terminal for just one more point that I would want to make to you there, the opportunity that I see as a taxpayer, all of us in this room, we're taxpayers, but 90% plus of that new terminal is going to be provided by federal dollars. So we couldn't pull that off as a community and handle that type of a $30 million project, but I'm proud to say that the planning and the work that we've done, it's going to happen, and we're going to turn dirt on October 8th at 11 o'clock. I hope all of you are there.
Need me to repeat the question?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, sure. So recently, the city has annexed the airport, and we have the plans to build a new terminal. What are your thoughts on the potential opportunities and any issues that may arise?
Yep. So kind of to repeat what Darrell said there, when we decided to become part of the city, obviously services were a big thing. Water, sewer, very important. Joint collaboration with the police department, firefighting. Our firefighters at the airport do a lot of joint training with the North Platte Fire Department, as well as mutual aid with surrounding communities. So it was kind of a natural fit, I believe, and it was the right move, I think, on both parts. Also in the terms of budgeting, it just makes sense. We're joined with the city now. We run everything through the city. And one thing I'll say on that note too, after sitting down with airport personnel, I want to make a really neat point in comparison to surrounding regional airports. We operate, I think our bond this year is 6.7 cents on per $100. If you look up other airports in the area, it's significantly more. What our airport is doing with the money they have is incredible. Right now, we have a crew of 8 individuals out there, plus an operations manager and an office manager. If you go to any other regional airport in the area, you're going to find significantly more employees. North Platte's always kind of had a history of doing more with less, and the airport is doing that and getting things done. It is being operated very, very well. So I can tell you things are being operated very well from that standpoint. So from a budgeting standpoint, I think it made a lot of sense to work with the city on that as well.
Andy, would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
I believe the annexation was very important for the move and the transition that we're making as far as the new terminal. There's a lot of things that are being overseen by not only the board, but also by the city officials, and like the budget. But everything that runs through the airport authority gets reviewed at one point or another, either through the accountant's office or that's presented to city officials as well. I think that it's a good partnership to have, especially how some of the funds are handled primarily by the city and as far as the property taxes and that, I think I can't add anything else to what both of these guys have said. It's just a good partnership being right here.
Okay, the last question is about property taxes. Property taxes and taxes in general have been a hot button issue, especially, it seems like every year, but especially lately it's been special session of legislature, et cetera. What is your stance and what do you see your role being in helping to create a better balance between tax asking and operations at the airport? Who's starting? Dan.
Okay, you bet. So when it comes to the property tax and, you know, the ask from the airport authority, I kind of alluded that in the last question. You know, we're doing a great job with what we have right now. The biggest thing going forward is master planning, in my view. You have to have a master plan, which the airport does, and it's a living document. You're constantly reviewing what projects are ahead of you, what regulations are ahead of you, and being ready for that and anticipating it. If you look back at the budget for the airport authority, it's traditionally right around that $1.3 million mark, depending on what projects are going on at the time and what the bond payments are. That is held for a long time. It's very good that we have held that, and we need to continue to hold right around that mark. So, you know, conservative planning, very important on that. And then also, like I kind of mentioned in some of my other answers, being ready for when that next economic opportunity comes or that next airline that wants to come in. So planning ahead and staying ahead of the curve. And then one other thing that I've learned, especially being in aviation, just the short time I have, networking. That's one thing I'll give Justin Gosnell at the airport a lot of credit of. He networks with all the neighboring airports in the region that are similar to us, and you will see or find a lot of the things that are coming down the pike by what folks are already going through. So as a board member, there's opportunities for the same type of networking, bringing that back, and hopefully, you know, getting ahead of the curve.
Okay, obviously, nobody likes paying higher property taxes, but, you know, they're essential to our society to function well. Like my constituents have said, they do more with less here, and so they're keeping that down to a minimum. And, you know, we voted on levies here just this last meeting, and we're keeping that down as low as we can. So our job there to maintain that, I think a lot, is to keep spending down, make sure we're staying within budgets, and just keeping an eye on that and proper planning. So that'll help us limit the amount of taxes that'll be forwarded to that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. George, thank you. I'm going to come back to my issue number 2 that I missed out on because I was yapping too much on number 1. But I think part of this, too, is the transitioning of the old terminal into repurpose for that building. I think those are dollars that we're going to spend wisely. It's part of the master plan. As you think about the terminal where we're at today, the new terminal is all going to be east in that parking lot where Trigo Dugan Aviation is, that large hangar there. That's going to eventually go away. We're going to repurpose the existing building with Trigo Dugan's FBO moving up into probably where United is or where TSA is. So get good use out of that building. But most importantly, as taxpayers, we got to have a plan like Dan was talking about. We do have that plan, and we just want to make darn sure we spend that money once. We don't want to spend money on infrastructure and screw it up. So that's part of our thinking there that comes back to the tax dollar. One other quick thought that I would share with you that goes back to when Mr. Sharkey retired, and for years prior, we'd always had an administrative assistant at the airport. And that person did a wonderful job for us. But when we brought in the new airport manager, our thinking was, do we need that administrative assistant? And we analyzed and looked at it, and what we ended up doing was we farmed out some of the bookkeeping and accounting work to a CPA firm and didn't hire that administrative assistant. We let the airport manager decide, let's fill 2 other positions that were more important in the whole staffing process. So it's thinking about how we're spending those dollars and spending them wisely as taxpayers at the airport.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you How about a round of applause for these fine candidates?
We did want to mention, real quick, just so everybody knows, with the Airport Authority race, there are 3 candidates that are running for 2 seats. So you will get to elect 2 of those individuals to serve on the Airport Authority. At this time, Ward 2 School Board, there is 1 candidate who is not able to join us this evening, and so she has sent a representative, her daughter, to come read an introductory statement on her behalf. So we're going to bring her up real quick, and we're going to be extra nice to her because she's not the candidate running. So Zara, you can come have a seat here in the middle.
Hello, my name is Zara Prieto. I'm reading the statement for my mother, who is not able to attend tonight because she's traveling out of state. So we'll start that. My name is Jennifer Prieto. I'm a mother of 5 wonderful kids, 2 who are recent graduates of North Platte High School, and 2 who are still actively involved in North Platte Public Schools. I also have an adult son who lives in Wyoming. I have always been passionate about being involved in my children's education. So what better way to be involved in guiding the schools and our kids' futures than to serve on the school board? Our family moved from Green River, Wyoming to North Platte in 2019 when my husband was transferred here as a manager with Union Pacific Railroad. We have loved the welcoming community of North Platte, and we are proud to support our local schools. When our family relocated to North Platte, we were taken aback by the high property taxes. In the interest of reducing the need for such high tax rate, it is imperative that the school district is properly stewarding these funds. We need to take a look at how funding is used and where it can be trimmed. There's a delicate balance between reducing monetary need and properly serving our children, the future of our community. Excuse me. Serving our children in the classroom requires strong support of our teachers and staff. Some of this may just require us looking at the perceptual box in a new way. Along with managing our local rental properties, I recently opened a small business. These jobs allow for flexibility in my schedule, which would make me available to attend the various meetings, school visits, and event participation that is necessary as a school board member. I started helping out in the classrooms and at science fairs, and eventually served as a school board member in Grand Junction, Colorado. This is when I discovered my passion for supporting schools and families at this level. Having been involved in a couple of other school districts, I would bring a fresh perspective to North Platte Public School District. And as both a property owner and a parent of currently enrolled students, I have a vested interest in both sides. Student enrollment for our district has been on the decrease. I believe that will change with the new industry slated to move into the area. Students come with a variety of strengths and needs. As a school district, we need to empower our families with such options as different school sizes and developing a variety of learning environments for students, which would encourage them to stay with NPPSD. I look forward to serving my community, being responsive to the concerns of my constituents, and helping them to get in touch with those who can directly help them. Thank you.
And now at this time, we'll bring forward Angela Blasey, the other Ward 2 school board candidate.
Hi, thanks. So our first question for you is, please tell us about your background and what qualifies you for the office. How will your availability and skill set allow you to fulfill the obligations and time required to serve well in this role? And you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Angela Blasey. I am born and raised here in North Platte. My dad moved here over 70 years ago, so our family has been here for a long time. I grew up in the North Platte school system. I'm a North Platte High School graduate. I have 3 children. They have all graduated from North Platte High. I'm a single mom. I run a daycare, so I work in education. I just do birth through 5, and I just graduated with my bachelor's in early childhood and family advocacy. one thing that I feel qualifies me for school board is I am very adamant about being an advocate for families and children. And I feel on the school board in the past, I didn't have that support and that advocacy, so I wanted to be that for other parents. My children went to Hall School, so that was closed years ago. And when that happened, I emailed and stopped on doors of every board member, and only 2 or 3 talked to me. And I thought, you know, I definitely want to make sure that our board is full of people who will talk and who will listen. And I wanted to be like those 3 board members that I saw. And so when Mike Morrell had my seat and he told me he wasn't running, I signed right up. So as for quality, or qualifies me, I don't know that I have anything that qualifies me except for the fact that I love kids. And I want my kids to be successful, like we all do, right? So I guess that would be it. I do run that in-home daycare, and so I have people that work for me, and I am able to come to meetings like this one tonight.
Okay. Next question. What do you see as the number 1 and 2 issues that the school board will deal with in the next 4 years? That'll be the length of your term if you're elected. And what is your stand on those 2 issues? You got 2 minutes.
Well, hopefully I see a lot of growth. We're hoping that with the packing plant coming in, we're going to have a lot of growth. And with that, we really need to also watch our budget. It's been a big deal forever actually, but the last 2 years, I feel that I've been very pivotal in making sure that I'm looking at everything. I'm a single mom. I understand what it's like to stretch that paycheck as far as you can. And so I feel that the school needs to do the same thing. I do understand the difference of millions of dollars and thousands of dollars when it comes to, monthly budgets. But if I have to stretch that dollar, I feel that the school district should too. I feel that we should be watching everything that we're spending our money on. Kids aren't coming to North Platte Public Schools because they have a pin that says North Platte Public Schools. Those are great and those are nice, but everything needs to be looked at. Schools, buildings, how many kids we have in each building, the administration that we have, all of those things cost money, and we really need to be watching that.
You've kind of touched on our next question, and that is the topic of student enrollment. And we have seen a decrease over the last few years at North Platte Public Schools. So multiple questions here. What do you attribute this to? What impact does this reduction have? And how do you plan to address it as a board member?
So I think the reduction in students has a lot to do with if you ask people, they will say with the railroad. People are coming in and they're going out. And I understand that. That is a big thing. We are a big railroad town. However, I also think it has a lot to do with advocacy for our families. We have families who are in our school district and they do not feel like they have anyone to talk to. They'll send emails and those emails go unreplied. And so they pull their kid and they go to local schools like Hershey, Maxwell, and we have good schools everywhere, but North Platte Public School is a good school. We just need to be able to listen to our people more.
Okay. Property taxes in general, been a hot button issue. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but tell us more about what you stand on that and what do you see your role being. And I want to back up just a second. Last question I asked too, I asked you, how can you be influential? It's not always easy, so talk a little bit about that too if you got time. You got 2 minutes.
Well, I don't know how I can be influential, except I have a big mouth and I like to talk to people. So, there's that. I feel that I'm approachable. I feel that when people come and talk to me that I do listen to what they have to say, whether we agree or disagree. I was put on the board in 2021, and so COVID was a big deal. And I had parents call, and no matter what side of the line they stood on, they felt comfortable enough coming and talking to me. I didn't judge them, I listened to them, and we tried to find a resolution through with how things were. You can only do so much when you're dealing with a state-funded building. But I feel that I can be that person. I do like speaking up, and I like speaking up for what is right. I forgot the actual question. That was from the last one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the actual question is about property taxes.
Oh,
You
yes.
want to expand on that a little bit?
So last year, we voted against raising the levy, which was brought to us by the administration on the school. They wanted to. We had to have a supermajority vote, and there was 2 of us on the board, me being one, that voted against that. Again, this year, they had brought us 3 different plans, and we didn't like any of them, actually, so we asked them to go back to the table and bring us something different. They did. It was a little bit lower, which was great. Then I, just this last meeting, voted against the budget because I don't feel that they are actually crossing their T's and dotting their I's. So until they can do that, I will still just go against the grain, I guess.
Okay, your last question. So when you receive complaints from constituents regarding things such as grading, discipline, curriculum, budget, what will you do about it?
This is my favorite, because when I complain about those things when my children were in school, it was always there's a chain of command. And there is, and I definitely understand a chain of command. So I always will tell that parent to go through that chain of command, and then I will follow up with a phone call, email, text, whatever that parent or taxpayer, depending on any of the issues, wants, and find out if they got their questions answered. If they didn't, we'll go through the next chain. When I talk to people, I don't say, oh, you are totally right or you are totally wrong. Hey, this is how we have to work on it. So start here and we'll go. I feel like I can be a teammate and I can work with people, not just give them a list of people to call and then forget them.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, now we'll bring up our School Board Ward 3 candidates. So we have incumbent Matt Peterson, and then we have Justin Thompson running. So if you guys will come up and take a seat for us, probably one of you on each end here for better camera angles. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks for being interested in public service to this degree. Tell us about your background, what qualifies you for office, and how will your availability and skill set allow you to fulfill the obligations and meet the time requirements to serve well in this role. And let's start with Matt, because you're on my left, and then you can start the next time, Justin.
All right, well, good evening. Oh, there we go. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us out tonight. My name is Matt Peterson. I was born and raised here in North Platte. I'm a proud graduate of North Platte Public Schools. After graduation from high school, I attended the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and obtained a bachelor's degree in secondary education. I then went on to law school at the University of Nebraska. And after graduating in 2013, I moved back to North Platte, and I practiced law with my dad here in town. So other than about 7 years for education, I've lived in North Platte. I'm married. I actually have a wife from Omaha who I convinced to move out here, and now whenever we go back to Omaha, she's glad that she's here. So she's been here with me. We have 2 kids. We have a almost 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and then we're expecting another one in late December. So we're preparing for that. But my oldest is a preschool student at Buffalo Early Learning Center, and so I'm getting my first foray into having a student in the school system. But I have a passion for education, and that's why I want to serve in this role. I started 8 years ago now, so I've been on the board for 8 years. I believe that time on the board has provided me with a solid foundation to continue serving. I've been able to learn a lot about the district. When you grow up here and spend 13 years in the school system, you think you know a lot, but until you really start to see the other side of things, you don't really realize how much goes into running a school district. And so it's been enjoyable to get that experience. The main reason I want to run is because, one, I care about this community, but two, having kids that are going to be in the school system or starting to be in the school system, I want to do everything I can to make sure they receive a quality education here in North Platte. And so as far as my flexibility, I'm self-employed, and so that provides me with some flexibility. It's the ability to attend meetings. In the last 8 years, I think I've missed one meeting. So I've shown a dedication to making sure I'm at the meetings, not only at the meetings, but also we have things that pop up from time to time. And so I have that flexibility to be able to attend those things. And so overall, I'm excited about the opportunity to potentially serve another 4 years. I think we have a lot of exciting things going on in the district right now, and I want to see that progress continue.
First of all, thank you guys. Thanks, Garrix and everybody for putting this on. Thank you all for coming out. My name's Justin Thompson. First of all, I'm a husband to my wife, Stephanie, who without her, I couldn't do any of this stuff. She supports me, and she kind of holds us all together. I'm a father to 4 amazing children, Cameron, Emerson, Oliver, and Reagan, from ages 13 down to 3. So I've been involved in the school system and will be for the foreseeable future. I work full-time as a firefighter paramedic for the City of North Platte Fire Department. I've been doing this for 17 years, serving this community, and I've been grateful to do so. During that time, I've been able to sit on different committees as a union officer, fitness committee, safety committee, bargaining committee. I'm a director with the Nebraska Society of Fire Service Instructors, so I have an opportunity to work with different instructors at different levels throughout the state to try to bring in the education we need to ensure that the firefighters in our communities are doing the best job. I've decided to take this opportunity to serve the community in a new way because I look at what our schools are doing and where they're headed. As a 2003 graduate, I think there's expectations we have in our community. Our expectations are for our children to be successful and continue to move forward in life. I think we failed to meet some of those expectations over the last few years. Looking at where we rank in the state, where our high school ranks in the state, I think the expectation is we should be improving. I haven't seen that improvement in the years that I've been out of school. I feel like 2003 we were doing pretty well. Most recent ratings have our proficiency levels between 17 and 14% between reading and math. We need to look at that. We need to take a new perspective, which I hope to bring into this role, to try to solve these problems. We need to make sure our taxpayer dollars are spent well and that we're funding things that need to be funded and making sure that all of our resources are going to our children and not other objects or pet projects. As we look at growth in the community, I think we're going to have a lot of challenges ahead of us, and I feel like I'll be able to bring a perspective that's different and new to meet those challenges head on.
All right, we'll start this question with Justin. And what do you see as the top 2 issues that the school board will deal with in the next 4 years, and what is your stance on them?
I think with the potential change in our demographics, I think one of the challenges we're going to face in our schools is going to be our English second language learners. I think we're going to have a lot of students in our classrooms that may not be our current demographic. We're going to need to find resources available to ensure that they're successful in our system as well. That's going to take a lot of work on our budget end and ensuring we have the teachers and the administrators in place to meet those needs so that they can reach their full potential while we're also not dismissing or putting on the back burner the current students we have in place. The success of all of the kids that are coming in will be of the utmost importance. I think the continuing struggle will be recruitment retention. We seem to have a struggle getting teachers into this community, and when they're here, they seem to want to go other places pretty quickly. I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of different teachers, and although they're wonderful teachers, and I think you could speak to any one of them that's currently here, we have some of the best teachers in the state, they leave. They don't want to be here after a certain amount of time. Some of those things come from administrative challenges. Some of that comes because they don't feel support. So I want to make sure they feel supported and that we're holding everybody accountable to meet the goals that we set in place.
Okay, thank you. Matt, would you like the question repeated?
I think I've got it, so
Okay.
if I miss something, let me know. But I would think that, I would agree, I think one of the challenges we see, potential challenges, is our increase in enrollment. I think that's obviously going to be a benefit to the district, but there are some potential downsides with that. The biggest is going to be determining, especially at our elementary level, if we see an increase in students at that level, we're going to have to look at how our students are spread out across the district. We have currently set boundaries for our students for which districts or which schools they'll attend. That's going to be something we'll really have to take a look at because we know, especially with growth in certain areas of town, those elementary schools are potentially going to see an influx of students. And so we're going to have to figure out a way to balance that. We've already started taking a look at some of those boundaries to see if there's a way we could potentially shift some of them to allocate those students. We want to make sure that we keep our elementary classes. We have a goal of between 20 to 25 in the students in the class, depending upon the grade level. And so that's going to be something we're really going to have to take a look at as we continue to see that progress and growth. As Justin mentioned, one of the things with that growth potentially is going to be our EL program. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but we currently have something like 19 languages spoken in North Platte Public Schools. And so we have a great curriculum in place. We've got great teachers. But we're going to have to increase that staff. And so teaching's a difficult, it's difficult to find teachers right now anyway, but specifically in those specialized areas like English language learners. And so that's going to be part of it. I would agree that I think retention and recruitment of teachers is extremely important. We've been lucky here. There's something like 700, 800 open teaching positions across the state. We haven't seen that here. We've had to be kind of creative in some of the ways we've found teachers. A couple years ago, we started recruiting some international teachers. That's been a blessing to our district. We've been able to fill some tough positions that we don't always have applicants for.
Okay. We touched on this a little bit, but the student enrollment is certainly seen a decrease over the last few years. And what do you attribute this to, and what impact has it had, and how do you see a plan to address it? You have 2 minutes on this one.
Student enrollment is something that we look at on a monthly basis at our board meetings. The administration looks at it on a weekly basis to see where our enrollment numbers are. The biggest impact with student enrollment is our state aid. So the formula is set up where the increased student enrollment helps receive more state aid. And so that's something that we're certainly always cognizant of. I think one of the issues we see is, and we hear about, is option enrollment. That is an issue that we continue to analyze. The tough thing with option enrollment is if students are opting out of the district, we can ask families why, but they don't have to tell us. And so we don't always get that feedback that would be helpful. I do think there's some misconceptions about that option enrollment in North Platte Public Schools. That number currently this past year was approximately 500 students. We're starting to see that number trend down, which is what we like to see. And in fact, we're actually seeing more students opt into the district as well. And so it's certainly still skewed, and we'd like to see more option-in students rather than what we're seeing with the option-out. But I think that's going to be something we keep an eye on. But there's always going to be families that choose to opt out, and that's something that we just know is going to happen. What I think we can do to help enrollment is to continue to highlight a lot of the things we offer in our districts that some of our smaller districts don't offer. That can be athletics and activities, but even on the academic side, we have a number of students who regularly graduate with 12+ credits from the community college at the high school graduation. We have several students in the last couple of years that have graduated with their associate's degree at the same time as graduation from North Platte High School. And one of the benefits we have is that we have a number of teachers who are qualified to teach those dual enrollment classes. And so a number of those classes can actually be taken without the students even leaving North Platte Public Schools and going out to the college. And so we've got a great relationship with our community college, and I think we'll continue to highlight that.
So I've had the opportunity, I spoke to a lot of parents, continue to speak to them, and a lot get opted out to Maxwell, Brady, Sutherland, Hershey, Stapleton, and the parents all have the same concerns when they're opting their kids out that I've spoke with. Discipline. They're taking their kids out of our school district because they're having trouble in school, because we're having problems with other children that they don't feel like are being addressed appropriately. One of the hardest things I think we have to deal with and we need to find a way to address is making sure that when we have these problem students, they can still get the education they need without causing the distractions to the other students that are causing them to miss out on educational opportunities. One of the biggest problems we have that nobody wants to talk about is our parents should be raising their kids, our teachers should be teaching our kids. We've kind of flipped the script on that. And we have too many teachers who are overwhelmed trying to raise people's children. So we need to find ways to hold families accountable, hold students accountable, hold our administration accountable. The teachers shouldn't be going to the board or to administrators and being told, well, there's nothing we can do. There's something we can do. We have to find the answers. We want to keep our families in this community, and that means that we have to take care of all of the students, the problem children and the good kids. But if we continue to just push them along and try to get them through the system as quick as we can and ignore the problems, we're just setting them up for failure in the long run.
Okay, we'll start with Justin. Question number 4, property taxes, in just taxes in general, have been a hot button issue. What is your stance on property taxes and the management of them, and what your role will be as a board member?
Well, I think everybody in this room will look at you and say right now your property taxes are too high. We got higher assessments and everybody's asking for more. I've spoken to people in our ward who've told me they're looking to sell their house. They can't afford to live there anymore because the property taxes are breaking their back. We've been lucky in the last few years. We've had some new board members get on that have really pushed the issue. It's hard to say we need to do more with less, but it's time we really start looking at that, whether it's administrative costs, whether it's programs, whether it's the little things from bottled water to cell phone plans. We need to start looking at how we're spending every dollar. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. It seems like there's quite a bit of waste that can be addressed, and the school board has a habit of asking for the maximum amount year after year after year, and I think it's our role to start bringing that down. We need to really give back to our taxpayers by saying, hey, we're going to ask for less. We can put a freeze on this. We don't need more. 50-some million from local property taxes is quite a bit of money to continue to fail to meet the expectations I think our families want. So I think it's time we put a stop to it and we just hold it where it is until we get some things figured out.
Matt, the question is taxes.
Yeah, I mean, taxes are obviously always going to be top of people's priorities. You know, and I tell people this, we're all taxpayers. Everyone on the Board of Education is a taxpayer. We understand the concerns. You know, public schools are at a unique spot in the state of Nebraska. Our funding sources are limited. We have state aid, we have local property taxes, and then we have some ability to receive some grants and other things. But for the most part, you know, we don't get any benefit of the sales taxes. There's other areas that we can't raise revenue. And so at the end of the day, we're still required to provide our students with a free quality education. And so I understand the desire to have lower taxes. I think, you know, the funding source right now for the state aid is up in the air. We don't know what the next couple of years will potentially bring with the new faces in the legislature next year. I think, you know, we looked at, we've got a budget of about $70 million. About 80% of that, a little over 80% of that is salaries and fringe benefits. The majority of that is teachers and paras. So those are things that we bargain with, and we really have little control over those things. We have to be within a certain array to meet the expectations. Things like insurance costs, retirement, all those things are things that we just don't have a lot of control over. So while I understand the desire to lower taxes, when we look at it, we're looking at under 20% of that budget that we really have control over. And I understand that there's areas that we can look at trimming that budget. We did this year. We had a significant reduction in our budget, about 6.8%. Our property tax ask was down. The levy is going to be down 10 cents to 95 cents. So I think we're making progress. There's certainly still room where we can always improve, but overall, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. The last question is, when you receive complaints from constituents regarding such things as grading, discipline, curriculum, budget, et cetera, what will you do about it, and how can you be influential in that, in those discussions, determinations?
my response to that is going to depend on what type of complaint or concern it is. If it's something that the board directly has an impact on, I'm going to listen. I'm going to hear you out. If it's something we've already voted on, I'm going to explain to you why I voted the way I did or what my position was. If it's something that's still up in the air, I'll explain to you where I'm leaning at that point. But the reality is a lot of the complaints and concerns that board members receive are things that we don't have control over or that we aren't involved with. Things like personnel issues, those are things that we shouldn't and can't get involved with. At the end of the day, if there's a termination of a teacher, for example, the Board of Education is the jury, and so we need to be an impartial jury going into that. So I think sometimes people don't like that answer, and I understand that, but as Angela indicated previously, we do have a chain of command, so depending on what type of issue it is, if it's a student issue, if it's a teacher issue, there's certain steps that patrons need to take, and I'm happy to walk people through that. I've done that before. I've sent them in the right direction so they can continue to address those concerns. But so going back to it, it's going to depend on the type of concern, but either way, I'll either listen to you and have a conversation with you. If it's something that we can't get involved with, I'll make sure that I point you in the right direction.
So I come from a pretty strict world of policies and procedures. Things are written pretty clear, and when you break the rules, you don't break the rules, and they make sense. So when people do have complaints, we can point them exactly where to go, and I think that's what we need to do as school board members. We need to listen to the people. We need to make sure that our policies and procedures that are in place for our students, for our parents, make sense. So if they come to me and ask me a question about discipline, when I give them an answer, they don't just go, well, that doesn't make sense, and I go, I agree. It doesn't make sense, but I can't help you. We have to stand by the policies and procedures we put in place. We need to make them simple enough, but clear enough that there's no gray area where we can. There are areas, like you said, personnel issues we may not have a lot of say in, but there is a lot of areas we do have say in. Policies and procedures, things we follow that are clearly written, should be our guiding force. And when somebody has a complaint, they should be able to come to you and you should be able to explain those pretty clearly. I'm always here. I'm always available. I've got a lot of free time. I'm off 20 days a month. I work 24-hour shifts. So when people have complaints, I want to be there. I want to hear both sides of every story, because for everybody, there's always another side. We have to be patient with people. We have to have our integrity and be able to hear, regardless if we agree or not. That's the person I want to be. That's the person I am right now. So when people come to me, I want to be there for them and then be able to point them to the right answer at all times and make sure that the things we've decided, the policies we put in place, are the right policies for our students and our families.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys. That will conclude the portion of tonight's evening that has school board races, and now we will switch gears to the two city council races that we will see on the general ballot. So up first will be Ward 1 City Council. We have incumbent Donna Tryon, and we have candidate Rod Dye. If you guys will go ahead and make your way up here, please.
Will. Okay, well, we're ready to get started with Ward 1. Our first question for you is, tell us about your... Okay, yes, so we have Donna Tryon, the incumbent, and Rod Dye, the challenger. So your question is, tell us about your background and what qualifies you for office. How will your availability and skill set allow you to fulfill the obligations and the time required to serve well in this role? And keeping with our pattern so George doesn't get confused, we're going to start with what is our left. So Rod, we're going to ask you to answer the questions first.
So I picked the wrong seat.
You did. You did.
My name's Rod Dye. I've lived in North Platte my whole life. My family has had a family business here in town. I graduated from North Platte High School and went right to work. Well, I worked a year at the fire department, and then I went to work for my family business. I've been a lifelong resident. I was brought up that if you don't like how things are going, you better roll up your sleeves and be ready to get out and fight for it. So I was with a group of friends one night that I thought were friends, and I was complaining about how things was going, and the next thing I know, they had me signing up for city council. So I'm a firm believer that North Platte has sat around for a long time, and we're finally getting the ball rolling, and things are starting to work in North Platte, and we need to keep things moving. I looked up the population. In 1980, our population in North Platte was 25,000 and some. Today, I think we're at 22,000 and some. So we've went the wrong direction in the last 40 years, and we're starting to get things going, and we need to keep it going. As far as availability, I am at my office every day at 7 o'clock in the morning. The coffee pot's on. If anybody wants to swing by and have a chat about something, come on in the office. I'm there all day long. If I'm not in the office, my staff knows where I'm at, and they can give me a call. But my door's open all day long at the office. So if anybody wants to, if I get elected and anybody wants to come and see me, I'm at the office, I'm available all the time. So, and if I didn't think I had the time to serve in this capacity, I wouldn't have signed up to be on the council, so.
Right. Donna, would you like me to repeat the question? Okay. Nope, you're going to need to speak into it and speak right up loud. Turn it on.
Are we on?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. My name is Donna Tryon. I was born and raised in northern Sheridan County on a farm and a ranch, and we had hogs and cattle and chickens and sheep, and you name it, we had it and we did it. Pretty isolated. You had to become very self-sufficient. And from there, I was privileged to go to high school in Curtis when it was the University of Nebraska School of Agriculture for 4 years. And after graduating, I didn't know what to do with my life, and I worked for all the government agencies that you can think of in Nebraska, Montana, and Oregon, because I moved a lot. And I have one daughter who is a registered nurse, and she's practiced in California, Guam, Hawaii, and Montana. And of course, I was privileged to visit all those places. But right now, I'm probably about 70% retired. I still do a little accounting work. I graduated with an associate degree in 2001. And I'm expecting in 2025 next year maybe to let go of a couple more jobs, so I'll have lots of time.
Okay. Next question is, what do you see as the top two issues that the council will deal with in the next 4 years? And how do you stand? Where do you stand on those? And how do you intend to be influential in those decisions? We'll start with Donna.
That's for me, right? I think with what's happening in our community, I think public safety would probably be one of my top issues. If we don't have a safe community, it really doesn't matter what else is going on. I don't think people would want to come or stay here. And so I would definitely support in funding our police department as to what they need to have done. The other thing is a hot button, I guess, is property tax. And when I moved here, I bought half the house and I paid twice the property taxes. I was stunned, shocked. And so I will do whatever I can do to control spending at the city level. I'm not in favor of tax incentives, especially. So I would just like to see the city be taking care of fire and police and our infrastructure. I think that's what city government is meant to do.
I think in the next few years, the top two issues in North Platte is going to be housing, We're going to have an influx of people coming to town with the packing plant in town. We're going to need housing for them to all be in. The city and the chambers worked real hard to get housing, and we've got apartment buildings coming up. And the other issue we're going to run into is we need to make sure we can retain people in the businesses we have now for the employees to stay at the businesses they're at. I see a lot of shifting in employees in the next 3 or 4 years with the packing plant. There's going to be new businesses coming to town, and people have opportunities to move up, and we need people to come in and fill those jobs. So, I mean, fire safety, police safety, all that is important, but the town, I think the town's going to grow very fast here in the next 4 or 5 years, and we need to, as a city, be very careful on things we do and make sure that everything gets done in the right way.
Hey, so you guys have kind of touched a bit on question 3. There's been an influx of TIF and micro-TIF projects recently. What do you believe should be the role of incentives such as TIF in our community moving forward? So Rod, I'm going to have you start with that.
TIF is a tool that, if it's used right, can help a community grow. We've sat here in North Platte and watched Hastings, Grand Island, Gretna, all them towns grow doing TIF projects. And there are some projects that we shouldn't TIF, but we need to be, a prime example of a good TIF is the Walmart distribution. We TIF'd that. That was a pasture. It was bringing in taxes as a pasture ground. Now that ground has a distribution center on it. I don't know what the value of the building is. I should have looked it up, but it's probably $15, $20 million building, and we're getting taxes on it today, and it's done being TIF'd. They would not have came here if we wouldn't have TIF'd them. So TIF is a tool that every community needs to use, including North Platte.
Donna, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have it. Thank
Okay.
you. I guess I have a different view on TIF. I'm not in favor of it. I would like to see just the private enterprise, that's our capital way of life, take care of our building. I see we have a housing development that is TIF'd, extreme blighted designation. Those children living in that housing development will go through our school system, first grade through 12, and none of their property tax will be supporting our schools. I'm just not in favor of government being involved in growth. I think there's other ways to do it, and I understand companies saying they can't do it without, because the law is there. It started in California, and it's made its way across the country. Look at California. So I am opposed, and as most people know, that I don't vote for it on the council, and that is primarily why I don't. Kind of picking winners and losers, because not every developer gets it. One developer told me after a vote several years ago, I can't compete with those that have it. Well, he is still developing in North Platte, so it can be done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is about property taxes and taxes in general. What is your stance on keeping taxes in line, in line with people's ability to pay? And what do you see as your role being in those kinds of decisions? And we start with Donna, correct?
I kind of already answered that, I guess.
You can expound.
Oh, I can?
Yeah, most
Okay.
politicians do that.
I will. I did bring, this was published in the Telegraph earlier this month, and it's an article about our state auditor and his opinion of TIF. I encourage all of you either Google Mike Foley's and TIF article. He has written a 26-page letter to our legislatures, and hopefully they'll look at that law and maybe make some changes on it because it's being apparently misused. I'm not saying it's been misused here, but the more money government gets, the more hands that touch it, the more fraud there can be. And so I'm just, again, I oppose tax increment financing for the most part.
Taxes is a hot button. Nobody likes to pay the taxes that you're paying, but you also like to have the streets cleaned. You like to have the snow removed when a snowstorm comes along. You want the garbage truck to come by and pick up your garbage, and all of that is a service that costs. And it takes tax dollars to make that work. So I agree that we need to watch our spending, but there's just a certain amount of spending that has to be done to run the city. And we have a lot of services that we do that nobody sees happen that takes tax dollars to make it work. So the other thing is a lot of the tax thing is we as council people can control our local spending, but the biggest tax expense is the state and the county and the schools. So we gotta, you know, the city is a small portion of that. There's other government entities that need to help with that also. And so I believe we should run the city like a business. There's going to be some things that you have to give up. There's some things that you're just absolutely going to have, and you're going to have to spend the money to get it. But I think we need to just control our expenses.
Okay. All right, your last question, we'll start with Rod. How do you view the role of annexation in the development of our community?
Well, if we didn't have annexation of the city, we wouldn't be broadening our tax base. Every time we bring a piece of ground into the city limits, we are bringing in a piece of county ground that's now being taxed by the city, so we're increasing our taxable value. I know my opponent here is against taxing it because she's afraid every time we annex it, we're going to TIF it. There's a lot of things that are going to happen that we're going to annex the ground that doesn't mean it's going to be TIFed. And annexation is the only way you're ever going to grow a community. It's just, that's the only way the community is going to grow is by annexing ground back into the city limits.
Okay, Donna, annexation is your question.
I have it. If annexation benefits the city, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. However, it does increase the landmass of the city, and therefore any other part of the city can be blighted and substandard designation. So therefore, unless there's a good reason to have it annexed into the city, I probably would not support that. I don't want it to be used to increase the TIF. And as far as government services, I would like to see, government limited and the users paying for some of the services that they want rather than everybody paying for services that many of us don't need, don't use, never will. So I would like to see more of that happen, which would decrease our budgets.
Okay, well, thank you both for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause.
We will bring up Ward 4 City Council now. This will be our last race of the evening, and we have Aaron Edwards and Nick McNew who are running, and we actually got to hear from both of them when we did this forum before the primary election, so I'm excited to see what else they have to add for us tonight.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm going to repeat your names for everybody that might have missed it. Nick McNew, and go ahead and nod or wave, give a little wave, Nick, and Aaron Edwards. And you two are both new. You're not incumbents. You're new to this race and this campaign, and appreciate you running. Your first question is to tell us about your background and what qualifies you for office, and how will you be available and have the time to fulfill the obligations and serve well in this role. And let's start with Aaron, keeping our tradition for Elizabeth and I.
Left to right.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm Aaron Edwards, lifelong resident here in North Platte. I am married with 3 kids. My daughter graduated this last year, and my youngest is 10. I've lived on the north side of town all of my life. Super excited to see the growth that's finally happening here. My skills, I guess, I'm on the county planning and zoning, so I know it's important to work with the city and the county and other larger areas trying to look at the bigger picture of this area, the things that we can see and do. My availability, my phone's on 24 hours a day. Call me, text me, do anything to get a hold of me. I'm available. As far as being able to go to the meetings and stuff, my work, I work for Dawson Public Power. They encourage us to be on these boards and stuff like that, so they're happy to give us time off to be able to attend all the meetings. I'm happy to use some of my vacation, anything like that it takes to do some of the extra meetings and stuff like that. I'm just super excited to be able to represent the north side of North Platte and all of North Platte on the city council. The growth that we are going to be seeing is awesome.
Nick?
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight and listening on the live stream. Thank you to RA Productions and our mediators tonight. My name is Nick McNew, and I'm a lifelong resident of North Platte and Ward 4. I live on the same street that I grew up on. And, you know, I have been in small business my entire life, and I have spent the last 15 years building relationships with the community and, you know, working retail that involves building trust. And I have spent a lot of time building trust with the community and with people that I get to talk to on a daily basis. And so I feel like that is one of probably the best attributes that I have to serve this role. As far as my time, I'm not going to tell you that I have all the free time in the world, because I am human. I have a job. I have a family. I have a wife and 2 boys. They're 15 and 10. They both play sports. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have a lot of time, but I will tell you that I am very good at managing my time and prioritizing my time. And I have been offered to sit on some other boards in North Platte, and I had refused them because I wanted to take this opportunity to serve North Platte at this level. And I feel like I am able to do that. And I wanted to, you know, step away from some other things to put some attention on city council, because I wanted to get involved in the community. I seen where we were going, and I seen some of the roadblocks that we were facing and were going to face, and I wanted to help be an advocate and a voice for the people of this town, whether you live in my ward or not. And I just want to continue moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with you this time, Nick. What do you see as the top 2 issues that the council will deal with in the next 4 years? What is your stance on them, and how will you be influential on the council?
First of all, I don't like that word influential, because that, you know, makes me sound like I'm going to twist somebody's arm into thinking a certain way of thinking. But if you look at influential, like I said, I'm a great leader. I'm passionate about my community. I'm passionate about the direction of North Platte and the people that are in it. The 2 biggest things that I feel like we're going to face, and I feel like it's already been said tonight, is housing, and the second thing is a public safety building for the police department. I feel like that's already kind of on the roadmap, and I want to help see that through. And I know that some of the things that our police officers face in the current building and the situations that they are in, with the influx of people, we're going to have to have a bigger police force, right? Because more people, more police. So I feel like we're going to have to accommodate them with a new public safety building. And the housing is always just a given. Our housing has just been dilapidating for years, and I feel like some people are purposely, not able to, first, they're not able to redo their homes, or they're just not willing to redo their homes because then they're going to have to pay higher property taxes. And so I feel like a lot of houses have just dilapidated over the years, and we need to help in any way we can on rebuild those structures and get new structures into our community.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
I've got the questions, that way I don't lose track of where I'm at.
Okay.
All right, so the top two issues, one absolutely is the infrastructure for the city of North Platte with the growth that's coming, whether it be electrical, water, sewer, trash, any of those are main things. And obviously our police and fire departments are critical infrastructure for any city. I know the county commissioners passed a resolution recently for designating Lincoln County as nuclear friendly, and that is huge for the electrical needs for this area and for the state as a whole. Granted, the county's not really responsible for doing that, or the city, but through our electrical provider, they're encouraging those kinds of growths for not only the state of North Platte, but for the rail park and the other things that are coming, the developments. Housing and development is the other big key thing that we need to have. They are working very hard on getting more housing coming here, attracting businesses to the rail park, to the city of North Platte, encouraging our existing businesses to grow and prosper. I mean, those are the two big keys. I fully support getting more businesses here, so growing. We need to grow. That is where we're going. How can I be influential? Best I can do is no different than I'm doing when I'm out every day, talking to people, bringing people into this community, telling them how good of things we are doing. Just being an available person to talk to. I was recently asked to write a couple of letters of recommendation for some other things that are coming into town, and that is just huge that we are seeing the growth that we are.
Okay. Third question. There's been an influx of TIF and micro-TIF projects recently. What do you believe should be the role of the incentives such as TIF in our community as it moves forward?
So TIF is a huge, huge tool, and we need to utilize that tool. The micro TIF is awesome for fixing up some of the smaller properties that you don't have to have a blighted designation for the entire area. It's lot by lot, house by house. That is a tool that existing homeowners can use, or bringing in nicer, newer, I guess, remodeled houses. As far as TIF as a whole, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I'm any sort of a TIF expert. I don't know too many people that are. We need to make sure that we are using TIF responsibly. It doesn't, just because somebody qualifies for TIF, the city doesn't have to give out every single penny of TIF money for every single project. Let's do TIF and be responsible about it.
On TIF and micro TIF, I think it's a great essential tool, like it's been said previously throughout the night. It is a good way to help attract businesses in, and where we're kind of at in the state of where we're at in our town, we're not really attractive to a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses pass right on by North Platte and go to other towns that are better established, I guess, or have better opportunities for their employees and their families. And so in order to help drive businesses into North Platte, I feel like sometimes we're going to have to use TIF. I think every situation is different. Every tax, every TIF, everything that comes through the table shouldn't be TIF'd. It should look at on what how it's going to impact the community, what type of business or what kind of project it is. Not everything should be TIF'd right away. It's something that I am in favor of if it is going to benefit and help the community. So absolutely.
Okay, question number 4. Property taxes, and just taxes in general, have been a hot button issue lately. What is your stance on property taxes, and what would you see your role on the city council as being in regards to taxes?
There again, North Platte the taxes are this is a business, right? The money's in, the money's out. We have to make sure that we're using that money responsibly. I think that if we are maintaining our roads and maintaining what we need to as a town, if people feel like their money is being used to help better the community, obviously it's not going to be that big of a topic. You know, I am not opposed to paying a little bit more if I know that money is spent better here than where it is over here. So I feel like if our tax money is spent wisely, if we look at the budget, make sure that we're spending money where we need to spend and cut where we need to cut, that's going to benefit us. Also, one of the biggest issues I feel like is helping keep our tax dollars that we're spending in town and making sure that we're not outsourcing out of town and sending our tax dollars out of town. We want to buy and support our town as a whole as much as we can with our own tax dollars.
So property taxes are always a touchy subject. I don't like how much I pay in property taxes, but the infrastructure needs paid for. You know, like I was saying, streets, sewers, electrical, all of that stuff, that has to be maintained by the city. There is no exceptions. The county has done a good job of maintaining their portion of the budget. Thanks to our mayor and the current city council, our city property taxes are actually held the line the last 2 years, if I remember right. The schools, well, we won't go there. Those are school board people you can talk to about what's going on there. Obviously, as a fiscal conservative, we need to hold the line. Make sure that we are, I guess, not wasting money. We need to make sure that the things that we are using our tax dollars for are essential. There are several essential services that we have to pay for. There's no reason to waste a bunch of money. Obviously, I would like to try to say I'm going to lower property taxes, but I'm not really a politician, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say something that I can't do. So that's my stance on taxes.
Okay, final question. How do you view the role of annexation, city annexation, in the development of this community? And who do we start with, Elizabeth? Aaron starts.
All right, and Rod Dye touched on this. The only way for a city to grow is to annex more property. And, sitting on the county planning and trying to work with the city on some of these, planning and zoning studies and stuff like that, making sure that we are, growing together. We want to make sure that we have a good comprehensive plan that is going to work well for the city and for the county. So that way, as the city grows into the county, it's a smooth transition. Working together rather than trying to just bulldog your way in is the way to do it. And the only way to actually grow your tax base and to grow the community is by annexation. So I'm all in favor of responsible annexation.
Yes, same thing. There's responsible annexation. We have to look at, is there city and water already close by there? How much is it going to cost to get city and sewer there if it's not already close by? We're kind of growing too much inside in North Platte because we're running out of places to build, so we need to start growing out. We need to start looking at the Buffalo Bill corridor. We need to look at other available land that may not be in city limits that we can start building on, because we are going to start growing. That's the ultimate goal. We want to get to this destination of growth. We can't keep growing inside this box. We're going to have to start expanding, and so we just need to work on responsibly doing that. That is a fear of people that some people that don't like TIF, because if we do have a bigger pool of property taxes, that's going to open up for more TIF. But that we can't be scared of what's going to happen. We can't run a business scared. We can't run a town scared. We have to run a town with confidence, and we have to have a direction and know where we're going to go. And we need to have that direction in mind, and that's for growth. And not everything is going to be good, and not everything is going to be bad. And a lot of times it's just compromise and figuring out what's going to be the best. And so annexing different parts of the county is going to be crucial here in the next few years.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Nick McNew and Aaron Edwards are running for Ward 4 City Council seat.
Thank you.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank you guys all for coming out tonight, for the candidates who got up here and spoke tonight. Thank you. I know the courage that takes, so we really appreciate you guys getting up there and being willing to answer those questions. And thank you to our moderators tonight who did a great job. For all of you that tuned in, we had quite a few people watching on the live stream and on the radio tonight, as well as those that were live here with us. So we just really appreciate that you are taking the time and the initiative to learn about the people that will be on your ballot. And I just want to remind you all to get out and vote on November 5th. And that's really all we have for you tonight. So thank you so much for coming. And I'm sure our candidates will be lingering around a couple minutes if anyone wants to discuss anything with them. This live stream is available to watch after the fact. So if there was something that you came late and missed or that you wanted to share with somebody, this is still available on YouTube and on Facebook on RA Productions. So feel free to go back and readdress those things if you want to. So thank you so much. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.